Good morning, everyone. My name is Jonathan Sweeney, and I'm an IT manager and analyst here at Red Sky Alliance. Today's threat brief contains information gathered from open source and WAPAC Labs collections over the last week. For the agenda today, we are going to briefly discuss recent reporting for the malicious use of CVE 2019-7256 being abused to create DDoS botnets. For open source and social media, we will cover recent data breaches and cyber attacks, and then we'll go over 7 days of trending, including the latest APT activities, botnet activity, cloud security, blacklists, and keylogger activity. According to research from the SonicWall and Applied Risk security firms, cyber criminals are using a vulnerability disclosed in May of 2019 to collect bots to be used in distributed denials of service. CVE 2019-7256 is being exploited by attackers to take over NSC linear eMerge E3 devices, which serve as access controls for businesses around the country. According to Applied Risk, NSC was notified about these vulnerabilities and failed to provide security patches, even though 6 of the vulnerabilities held a very high severity rating of 9.8 out of 10 or higher. One of the reasons for the high severity of this vulnerability is that it can be exploited remotely by low-skilled hackers. The issue is caused by insufficient sanitizing of user-supplied inputs to a PHP function, allowing arbitrary command execution with root privileges. Criminals can exploit this vulnerability with a specific HTTP request. And once the devices are being hacked, SonicWall claims they're being used in DDoS campaigns. At this time, there's still no known patch, even though the company was notified last year. There's still no known patch available for these exploits, so analysts recommend just disconnecting these devices from the internet if possible, or placing them behind traditional security appliances. Analysts actually reached out to Nortec and asked about the vulnerability. The staff that spoke with the analyst was not even aware that the vulnerabilities existed, and the staff claimed that as long as you're using the most current system, it's not vulnerable to hackers. This is incorrect. This shows that even though the vulnerability was disclosed to them in May of 2019, they're still not informing new customers of the issue and don't seem to understand the vulnerability or have any future plans to correct the issue. Regarding gray noise activity this week, we see eternal blue scanning activity at the top with some Mirai and SSH scanning also listed. Regarding the increased ports activity, we see TCP port 389 for LDAP with the highest amount of unique IPs. We also see NetBIOS over port 138 with a significant amount of unique IPs listed. And in the past 24 hours, gray noise identified approximately 31,000 unique malicious IPs. In open source news this week, we saw a story about a gentleman who tricked Google Maps into thinking that there was a traffic jam at his location. The man walked around with 99 cell phones running Google Maps, which fed misleading data to Google Maps, tricking it into thinking that 99 drivers were basically just driving down the street at a very slow speed, simulating a traffic jam. Even though the streets were completely clear, Google Maps showed significant delays triggered by slow, heavy traffic. There was no malicious intent in the experiment, but it does go to show that Google Maps can be used to create apparent delays, and drivers would likely have been rerouted around these areas during this time if other routes existed. At the very least, it's likely to trigger a few make a U-turn signals from Google Maps for you. Moving from Google Maps to Google Photos, the company is claiming that it accidentally shared videos in Google Photos with incorrect users between November 21st and 25th of last year. The company states that the leak only affected those who used Google Takeout service in November and does not involve photographs, only videos. At this time, Google claims they have resolved the issue. Making the news again this month in another Twitter data leak, using the company's, is another Twitter data leak. Using the company's APIs, hackers were exploiting the company's data to match phone numbers with Twitter usernames. Previously, employees at Twitter were accused of gathering intel on behalf of the Saudi government, so it's not uncommon for governments to find dissidents via Twitter. It's unclear why the hackers were matching phone numbers, but this would be a useful This would be useful to a government trying to identify expats or public dissidents using phone information attached to their Twitter account. And last week, we recorded approximately 950,000 of the indicators listed above. These collections included our threat recon, keylogger, malicious emails, and sinkhole traffic. The numbers on this slide show the indicators in the respective collections. Indicators are available to paid Red Sky Alliance members weekly, as well as our blacklists, which come in CSV, FortiSIM, and Proofpoint formats. These are APT and botnet indicators collected in the last 2 weeks. We had 162 unique APT indicators in the past 7 days. This is up about 95 indicators from last week's reporting. You can use your two-factor authentication to log into CTAC to download the APT indicators discussed today. Please contact us on Slack or via email for any assistance. And on the right, you can see our, sorry, next slide, please. Topping the list for multiple weeks now is SickyPot. We've got Carbonac and WECB, as well as DNS Calc showing up in the top APTs this week. Botnet activity over the last 7 days remains fairly consistent with prior trending. Spamhaus data shows 31 Jinrong Street in the top spot this week, with Bharti Airtel in second place. And moving up this week, we actually see Vietnam Post Telecommunications Group Core in the third spot. On the cloud security front, we are seeing botnet activities in the same cloud environments as usual, with a slight switch up. Peak 10 is the highest risk cloud environment this week, according to our data, switching with Amazon for second place, and Microsoft and Alibaba are also in the top 5. Rackspace and TierPoint are caution risk environments this week, with ONR staying in a lower risk environment. In our malicious emails collections this week, we observed someone spoofing Maersk shipping to spread Windows whack attack Trojan malware identified as shipping documents in the subject line. We see emails using the domain for the self-proclaimed #1 outdoor advertising in the world company in the world being used to target Electroputer and Macron International. And lastly, we see a solar development company out of Shanghai sending whack attack malware to Electroputer and malag.de. Our blacklists are published weekly. On the right-hand side, you can see some of our keylogger stats. Last week, we observed 33,231 sinkhole connections from new unique IP addresses and 11 unique email accounts compromised with keyloggers. Please go to redskylines.org to inquire for additional support, complete blacklists, Red X-ray, and API access. I want to thank you all for joining us today. Please visit our Red Sky Alliance portal at redskylines.org for additional cyber intelligence reporting. If you have any questions about the topics briefed today, please get in touch with us at jmckee@wapaclabs.com. Thank you, and we'll see you all next week.